Welcome to your VSO show. I'm Declan Ware, the Town of Whitman VSO. I'm joined today by Terrence O'Keefe, the Hanover Hanson VSO. Terrence, how are you?
Good, Deck. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. It's been quite an experience, from getting out of the service and then me calling you and trying to figure stuff out. And now I'm in the position I'm in now, and you've been great help to me. So I just kind of want to start off. Tell me about your military experience to even begin with. Tell me about the journey from the military, after the military, to where you're at now.
Yeah, so I got out in 2000. Yeah, I got out in 2000. I was in the Army, serving at Fort Benning. And then during my time there, it was just 9 months in Kuwait. Yeah. And then, obviously before 2001, that was the tour at the moment as far as anybody was concerned. Nobody wanted to go sit in the middle of the Udari Desert in the Kabul for 9 straight months, but it's a great experience. Over the years, I'd been a truck driver, working for various companies. In my off time, I was volunteering, working with veterans in crisis, or veterans with disabilities. Did some charitable work, doing fishing trips with veterans with disabilities down in North Carolina with Operation North State. And then I was afforded the opportunity recently in the past couple of years to actually do that volunteer work as a career. I became the Hanover Veteran Service Officer in November of 2024. And as of this past December, assisting with Hanson with their VSO situation, and then recently on April 9th, it was approved for the intermunicipal agreement between Hanover and Hanson by the EOVS to go forward with this districting, so to speak.
Yeah, right. I mean, I'm going to assume that transition there, going from one town, now you're combined as two towns now. I mean, we get it, how busy it is just one town. What are the challenges that you see right now in that transition from just Hanover, now Hanover Hanson? What does that look like to you?
Yeah, the work is, well, for the lack of a better term, doubled, without, hard numbers. But and like I said, it's all about time management. Having that close proximity between both of my offices makes it that much easier. 2.5 miles from door to door. So it offers the ability of Hanson residents, veterans, to come see me in a Hanover office and vice versa. But I do hold normal scheduled hours Monday and Friday in Hanover, Tuesday, Thursday in Hanson, and then the split between the two towns depending on who I have scheduled for that day. Right. More challenging, planning to Memorial Days, planning to Veterans Days, and all those ancillary, those observances that come with the job. Two sets of cemeteries, as being a graves officer. The deal. Yeah. So there's challenges, but the great news is that comes along with it. At some point we will be posting up for an admin position, which will be a great help. They'll be working with the Chapter 115 predominantly, but they'll also assist in any of the other things. One of the great advantages is that Hanson actually has a Patriotic Observance Committee. Right. So it's the ability to help plan these things becomes a little bit easier on the Hanson aspect, because I can rely on them to help execute some of the plans that we've devised when it comes to the planning for the observances. But all in all, I'm keeping up with the different bylaws and things like that that are associated with each town. It's definitely got its challenges, but I mean, it's not about what is best for me. It's about what's best for our veterans, our brothers and sisters in our community. Yeah,
right. I mean, I think about, just the elephant in the room immediately to me, right now in May 2026, I immediately go to Memorial Day. It's coming up. I could definitely see that challenge being presented there, with the two towns. You have to balance that back and forth. I could really see, the admin position is going to be critical. I can see you really leaning on that individual to kind of make sure stuff flows, in the towns, while you're gone. Maybe you're taking care of one town, the admin's in another, whatever that looks like, but yeah, I really think, going forward in the future, do you think that maybe, we could possibly collaborate, between towns, Whitman, Hanson for like future events? Do you think that's something that, maybe you and I could explore?
Absolutely, yeah. So like obviously Whitman and Hanson have a connection, right? Not only just with the community access, but the school district as well. So we are entwined to a certain level, right? You and I have discussed the Veterans Day situation, and that's already been approved. So we're rock and roll to be able to work together, at least on Veterans Days.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a nice team partnership to be able to work back and forth, especially the fact that they are tied together. If you're having issues or I'm having issues as far as like getting claims or working with veterans is concerned, we actually have an opportunity to work more hand in hand, close together as far as like how we go about things and assist in certain aspects. Yeah.
Yeah, and just kind of like about that partnership, what I think of, I'm really gonna pat your back here. I think back to when I was a recently discharged veteran, and I remember calling you because I had no idea about absolutely anything. I had no idea what benefits I could do. I guess. If you get the phone call again from a veteran just like I was in that position, like what is your advice to that individual? What are you looking to do? How are you going to help that individual again that was in a similar position as I was? Well,
obviously, when you called me originally, I was still super green.
Yeah.
We had our hiccups and our bumps and our claims for you because that would have been my first BDD claim. Every case is not sometimes the same. The topics are the same, but the way you approach them can be different, especially when you're doing statements and you're doing, like what conditions are they going to file for? How is it going to affect them further? And then advise them whether or not they should be going for certain things at that point in their, because like I said, 90% of the time they're doing their BDD claims with their unit, with their command at their post, right? So yours was very, very unique. You called me instead of working because I think you were under the 180 days when you decided to start. So it was advisable for you to call me at that point. But you take these cases, at a case-by-case basis. So there really is no set standard as to how you're going to advise somebody and how you're going to approach their case, but you always do it with the best intentions, with the duty to serve, So you're always working on their best interest, and you see what you come up with in the end. But that's the great part about the system is it affords you the opportunity to correct your mistakes and to keep going. But the great news is that you and I have both, since we started, have made great resource connections. Even if we don't know the answers, we reach out and we get those answers in order to best serve the veteran.
Yeah, and to touch on that, the MVSOA, which is the Massachusetts Veterans Service Officer Association, and I think the subsequent SMVSOA, the Southeast Massachusetts Veterans Service Officer Association.
Our specific group, yeah. Our
specific group. I mean, I think we have great camaraderie there. Mm-hmm. We all talk, and we all really help each other out. And I just want to tell the group listening, us as VSOs, we may not have the answer all the time, but we have the resources to find the answer for you. So don't ever give up hope. Don't give up faith on us, because all of us talk. We will find an answer one way or another. It's just the way it goes. I mean, we're just so tight and
no, exactly. And then we all worked very well together. Like the ability for VA claims, veterans can go to any VSO in any town. And that's one of the greatest advantages, because even if, say, for instance, you're getting what you want, but you're not getting along with that VSO, whatever, there's always something, right? You have the ability to go to another town and talk to that VSO. And the great news is we all understand that. And even if somebody moves on from that, there is no hard feelings about that.
Yeah.
There is nothing that, if you were to say one of your veterans came to you, he's not liking how you're presenting it to you. He wanted to ask me questions, and then he decides that he wants to come see me due to the close proximity, and he get along better with that. And it's okay. We don't have to. You don't have to get along with the veteran. They have plenty of other options, right? So, I mean, there's the fact that we have such a cohesive team is so advantageous to the veteran and their interests.
Yeah, and I was going to say, it really streamlines the work, even if they bounce between towns, because if the VSO did their job, that 21-22 and possibly the 09-66 ITF, it's already in. So then the other VSO just has to pick up where the other one left off, and we're smooth sailing. I'm not going to comment on the other the veterans organizations. I'm not going to name them specifically, but sometimes it can be a 21-22 power of attorney. There can be a kind of a hiccup there if we're picking up somebody from someplace else.
Right, and then you talk about, like, say, for instance, that a veteran is denied for their claims. It could be something as simple as somebody missed putting in a statement, a 4138, right? It's something so simple that just somebody missed. And like I said, mistakes happen, but that's the benefit of having these measures in place where you can make up for those mistakes, doing supplemental claims, higher level reviews, all the way up to BVA, right? So there is all of these in place in order to make sure that we're adequately doing our job no matter what, in any circumstance. And the EOVS is very good. The Executive Office of Veteran Services is very good about being there for us at every turn. If we need something, an answer, even if it's outreach, they're very good about what they do. Dr. Santiago set that up so well when he came through, and now we have Dr. Gorelick that's in place, and he is very adamant about doing outreach and making sure that he's in touch with the community.
Yeah, and to your point, us as VSOs, in case any listeners, that you didn't know, we have that parallel connection there where we can talk between communities as VSOs. But then we also have above us. So above us we have EOVS, which is Executive Office of Veteran Services. That's the state level entity. In working at EOVS, they have people called NSOs, or National Service Officers. So even if we do something that may seem crazy or whatever it is, every document we do, everything gets QA checked by the NSOs at EOVS before formal submission to the VA.
Exactly. Yeah. When we file the paperwork and the forms for their claim, it's we create the work order, the claims package work order, and it's sent for review by our NSOs. They check to see if there's any anomalies, whether we're missing something, we could use something. They offer the advice if it's necessary, and then they send that on to the VBMS system, which is the Veteran Benefits Management System that the VA uses. And then, say, for instance, there's some mailers that come in to the veteran from the VA and they're not sure what to do. We can check with the NSOs to find out what that is in particular, that's addressing, what issue that's addressing in order for us to fix it properly. So as long as the veteran gets back to us in a sufficient amount of time, we can fix that problem right quick.
Yeah, right. I guess now, and you've been on the job since November 24. Talk about that learning curve. I gave you a mollywhopper with my situation, being out of state in North Carolina and everything. So talk to me a little bit about that learning curve, because we have a few new VSOs in the Southeast region now. Do you have any advice to them about that learning curve and getting over that hump to get up and operational?
Yeah, don't be afraid to ask the questions. And also, don't be afraid to possibly make a mistake. Because like I said, those provisions are in there, those levels of monitoring are in there, and the ability to fix these mistakes, are in place. But make sure you reach out, because that's the number one thing that I always do, and I still do it, especially, say, for instance, when it comes to VA health. Number one, it's already complicated, but number two, it's constantly changing. So I utilize resources at the VA themselves. They have outreach teams that will contact the veteran or the dependents, whoever's the advocate for the veteran. They will contact them in order to tell them what they're entitled to, what they could be entitled to if they do this, and they will advise the next steps, to which I can act as the middleman, just providing the documents to the outreach coordinators to make sure that that stuff works. And they work alongside with the social workers within these VAMC campuses, whether it's Brockton, JP, West Roxbury, even these community locations like Plymouth or Quincy. They will work hand in hand with them because their system is the same.
Yeah.
But it's different from the comp section, the VBA section. So just make sure you utilize your resources. Don't give misinformation based off of guess or probability.
Right.
Just give them the facts and utilize those resources in order to do it.
Right. Yeah. You know, I'm coming up over a little over a year now as a VSO. You know, I can't believe I'm saying that. I mean, that's unbelievable that I'm saying that. You know, I learned so much from you and everybody in the Southeast region. You know, I think one thing I kind of picked up on was once you get operational and you start understanding stuff, you start understanding process behind it, specifically like VA claims and stuff like that. You know, you were telling me earlier, it's wash, rinse, repeat.
Correct.
You see the same forms over and over again. It really is wash, rinse, repeat. You know, it's good that the VA, you know, is bureaucratic as it is. You know, what I like is that they're standardized forms. Mm-hmm. So we can look at things and we can say, okay, yep, this is how it needs to look. We can just, as VSOs now, we can just eyeball a form and tell if something's filled out properly, you know. So, you know, VA will always have its problems, but what I can say, at least now, you know, like claims, the time to get a decision on a claim, it's reduced now. What is it, like 90 days or something like that?
Yeah,
now?
ballpark. Yeah. I used to advise that when everybody asked me, you know, how long does this process take? And I said, usually about 5-6 months plus or minus. In the past 10 years, a lot of policy and procedure has changed to benefit. It's been a slow process over these 10 years. In the last 3.5 years, due to the fact that the EOVS was formed from the DVS, original DVS, within the state itself, process, you know, and outreach and care has changed dramatically. Both the hospitals, Chelsea and Holyoke, been certified. Their process and how they care for veterans has changed. So, like, when I say wash, rinse, repeat, everything is still fluid. So everything is different. Everything can be different, but it's only subtle changes because of all the changes that have already come on. So when you have a veteran that comes in, while the forms are standardized, what they're going to claim could be different from the last veteran, and what their symptoms are and their level of symptoms based on the ratings, that could be different too. It may not be beneficial to, you know, do one without the other or do one at all. So there are subtle differences when it comes, but it's all a case-by-case basis. But the wash, rinse, repeat is how we approach things. Yeah. You know, you ask the specific questions. You ask for, you know, where they were stationed. You ask for where, you know, what their conditions are, how it affects their day-to-day, and how it affects the families. These all come into factor when you're doing the process, because the one key piece of the glue that that I've found that keeps everything together is the 4138, the statement of the claim, how you word it, what you include. You make sure that it is, you know, very succinct. It's not elongated because, as you know, these adjusters, these authorizers, they only have about 12 to 13 minutes maximum to review a case. So you want to make sure there's fact. You want to make sure that there is a little bit, you know, from their own words, and you want to make sure how it affects their day-to-day. It all comes into play.
Yeah. And to your point, because I really want to hit on that 4138. In case anyone doesn't know, a 4138 is a statement in support of claim. It's this is your opportunity to tell the VA your side of the story. Now, us VSOs, you know, we all talk, so we all have a way of kind of, I would say, structuring the 4138. And really, I think where I found success is it comes back to circling back on the three elements of service connection on that. I personally do mine. You break it down, and I do mini paragraph format. We talk about the qualifying in-service injury or event. If there is a current diagnosis, we'll put that by Dr. So-and-so, and then we circle back, you know, on the medical nexus piece. You know, you talk about how you think it's related, what you did in service and your MOS duties, and then also in there, what I like to do is I like to list out my symptoms. You ask the vet, you know, what symptoms, you know, are you going through, and we kind of list out the symptoms. Next paragraph, next condition, wash, rinse, repeat over and over and over again.
And then you know, you can always add that little bit of a personal, to have them add that personal touch. You know, like if it's an injury that's an extremity, like a knee, ankle, whatever, they're all trying to do their daily activities, but they have to constantly stop and do their, you know, their range of motion exercises, which causes their, you know, their days to be elongated. That kind of explanation may not come out in a C&P exam, which is a compensation and pension exam that the VA will send you to, whether it's at a VA or at a third-party contractor or even telehealth. Sometimes veterans don't enunciate how they don't explain how it affects them on a regular basis, what they have to do in order to get through. The 4138 offers them a chance to put it in their own words, how it affects their day-to-day, and that goes a long way towards their claim.
Right. So I guess, you know, circling back to the Hanover-Hanson Veterans District is newly minted, newly blessed off. I guess what is your vision for the Hanover-Hanson District? You know, I guess where are you at now? Where do you want this thing to go?
I mean, truth be told, it's a long-term. It's longevity, right? Yeah. I want to have a program in place that makes a lasting impact long after I'm gone. I want something that is going to stand the test of time, that is going to be proven in order to make sure that the two towns that I have sworn to represent are taken care of for generations.
Right. Yeah, you know, and it's always a challenge, you know, just I think doing this job, and something I learned, you know, you got to have some sort of like standard operating procedures in place. You know, you got to have structure. You know, like you were saying, it's time management. It really is important. And you got to have structure, but the fluidity of it is, I always say, is I wear a different hat every day, because I never know when I go into that office, okay, what am I looking at for walk-ins, or, you know, chapter 115 specific case. You know, you never know what could happen. You know, one minute you're an unlicensed social worker talking to people about their problems, and the next second we're doing chapter 115, and a minute later we're jumping into VA claims. So we kind of really do a lot here. Yeah,
we're definitely servants with many hats, right? Yeah. So it's great. Like that one adage, you know, if you're tired of standing, you shoot from a prone position. Yeah. You know, you have to be able to adjust on the fly, because like you said, it could be just something as simple as filing a claims process, just doing a POA, and all of a sudden you're having a candid conversation with somebody that is desperate to talk. And these offices, like I said, I say it all the time, it's not just for pushing paper. We're actually here in all aspects of service for our brothers and sisters. If they want to talk to somebody that is not going to jot something down, or they're not going to record something, or it's not going to affect their case or anything, or their entire life, they just want to talk to somebody that is, you know, completely unbiased to their situation and is not going to be judgmental because they see it every day. We offer that opportunity. Yeah. All of our colleagues do that. Yeah.
You know, and I highly encourage my veterans that may be listening, if you ever just want to come in and talk, you know, I'm speaking for Whitman now. If you ever just want to come in and talk just because maybe you have a problem, you had a bad day, whatever that is, give me a ring. for real, like come in and we can talk and we'll find solutions for you. If that's a VA solution, if that's a state solution, if the solution is, hey, I just need to talk to somebody, that's what I'm here for, and I know that's what you're there for.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said to you earlier, I met somebody today just off the cuff. He's not from my area, but I had a conversation with him, and I'm fully remote capable, so I was actually able to start his claims process by putting in a 21-22 and a 0966, and uploading his DD-214 because we have access to the MRO.
Yep.
So I was able to just, figure out who he was by his ID and able to make sure that he was taken care of, email the EOVS to have them have the profile sent to his correct location. That way they can further assist them. We are never off the job.
No.
We're never off the job. We are able to sit there on our own personal time and talk to somebody that just may walk up and, veteran, like, oh, you're a VSO. What do you think about this? But that's what we do. Yeah. That's our commitment to service.
Yeah, and I'll be frank. I see the situation come up all the time in Whitman, where it's the young veteran comes in just because they want to talk to a guy, that's relatively in their age bracket, and they just need that different life perspective or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, I think it's our part of our duty is to be, we have to be relatable to these guys. It's why being a VSO, we have to be, you have to be a veteran to be a VSO, because we all have to be relatable. It's just it's part of the job. In the town of Whitman, we've been really pushing, we're trying to do community outreach. I've been trying to reach the younger veterans. I think that's a challenge that I face, is how do we find the younger veterans? I mean, do you want to touch on that? Have you found a way to reach those young veterans yet? So
just through social media. Look, there's a reality in place. These young veterans are out working.
Yeah.
And you have to, like VSOs, have to have the ability to work outside of your normal schedule. You'd have to hold an evening session with them. From time to time, they're on their way home from work in Boston, and they are getting back to the area about 6:30, 7 o'clock. If they need that opportunity, you need to be available. For me, I have access to both of my offices 24 hours a day, 7 days a week if necessary. If I want to come in on the weekends, I can do that, which is a great capability. It's a great tool that I have, because I've tried to put on a few different evening courses, but they're, like I said, just to get the younger veterans involved. They can't come to a coffee hour in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week. That's not in their arsenal. Same thing. It hasn't worked yet, but I'll continue to try, still putting on these evening courses, these meetings at the Legion posts that afford me the ability to do that. So to get the younger generation in, they got to understand that they need to still continue to monitor their claims. They need to monitor their mental health. They need to monitor their personal lives and adjust and see, what's out there. And like I said, we have the ability to give them a different perspective.
Right. And I just want to talk about one last thing here, because I want to bring it up. I know you have a service dog.
I do.
Yeah, you want
not a service dog.
Okay, all right. Misspoke. Comfort dog. You want to talk about Sarge a little bit?
So Sarge, within the town of Hanover, and this benefit molds over to Hanson as well now that we have an agreement. Sarge is a comfort dog. It's based off of the DA's office, the Plymouth County DA, Tim Cruz. He has started the comfort dog program. So you hear about dogs like Ziva, Laney, and I'm trying to remember Whitman's comfort dog, but the police departments have. Those are for mental health purposes throughout the community. Mine is veteran focused. I have the ability to have him in office at any time in order to help break down those walls when it comes to assisting with the veterans and their claims and their feelings and how they move forward. Yeah. I can't tell you how many times that I've had a veteran in my office that is, broken down to the worst possible place they could be, and how having that dog in that position has helped me help a veteran.
Right.
It is such a great tool. And outside of the VSO portion of it, I am working on my nonprofit in order to bring that to every veteran service office, municipality at no cost through corporate donation.
Oh, wow.
So that's going to be an opportunity, a tool that the EOVS I've discussed with them to help me bring to the state of Commonwealth of Massachusetts as a tool to help assist veterans with their situations.
Yeah, no, I think that would be great. I think just having that comfort dog, you know, it's a lot of times we see when veterans come in, you know, especially when we're seeing mental health claims. I mean, a lot of these guys, I'm just going to speak bluntly, they're telling us about the worst day of their life, you know. But Terrence, I hate to do it, but I think we're coming up on time. And my viewers, thank you for listening to your VSO show. Yeah.
Awesome. That's a great time. Thank you.
Yeah.